Hi, I'm Stuart McLaurin, President of the White House Historical Association. Welcome to this episode of the White House 1600 Sessions. Today, we are just outside of Williamsburg, Virginia at the President's Heads. We're here to look at what's become a social media hotspot. They're the President's Heads, a collection of statues that were rescued and moved to this spot. The statues were part of President's Park, an outdoor museum which was about 11 miles from where we are today. That park actually went bankrupt in 2010 and sadly is now closed. But what remains are 42 statues of the U.S. presidents, from George Washington to George W. Bush. Each was sculpted by David Addix, an artist based out of Houston, Texas, whose work is displayed in major art museums across the country. He even created the 8-foot bronze statue of President George H.W. Bush that stands in the Houston airport that bears President Bush's name. While these statues have fallen into disrepair and are no longer under the care and jurisdiction of Mr. Addix, this is just one of 3 sets he made of these giant presidential heads. There was once a President's Park in the Black Hills of South Dakota, which is also closed. But I'm told there are plans to put statues from the 3rd and final set, which span from George Washington to Barack Obama, into public spaces near Houston, Texas. Mr. Addix is an incredible 98 years old, and he is determined to make sure his statues find a good home. I certainly hope he's able to make that happen, and I look forward to someday seeing the statues as he originally intended. So, how did all of these heads get here? We're going to let John Plichell tell us that story. John is one of the co-organizers that puts these tours together several times a year. So what's important to remember, if you try to seek these out on your own, is this is private property. You have to have permission to enter here. If you enter without permission, it's trespassing. John suggests you do a quick internet search for the President's Heads to see if any tours are scheduled before planning your trip. John's been hosting these tours a few times a year for several years, but the future of the statues and even these tours is sadly uncertain at this point in time, which is why I'm so glad and grateful that I can share them with all of you today. What an incredible sight. 42 presidential statues. Each one is made of rubber, mold-hardened concrete atop steel mesh and a heavy steel armature and base. On average, they're about 15 feet tall, though a few are a bit taller and weigh approximately 1.5 tons each, with the head and bust combined. The fact that they survived and are here at all is truly incredible. And we have businessman Howard Hankins to thank for rescuing these incredible presidential statues. Howard was actually hired to demolish the statues in 2013 after President's Park went bankrupt. But thankfully, he just couldn't bring himself to do it. He saw the statues as an art collection, a history lesson, and that's why I wanted to visit. So as you can imagine, this is a social media selfie haven. Most people may come here to take some cool photos, and it certainly is a lot of fun, as you will find out. But I welcome any opportunity to teach people about our American presidents and the White House, even if it includes trekking through some mud for a selfie. Hundreds, probably thousands of people from all across the nation have come here to look up close at these presidents. Just today, I was out waiting and little kids running up, just excited. They'll see them and they go, wow, and they scream, and that was kind of my reaction too. So it's great to see you guys here at the President's Head. Christine, tell me about your family and where you're from.
Hey there. Well, I'm Christine, and I've got 3 of my boys here. This is Owen and John and Christopher, and we live in Virginia Beach.
Awesome.
And we traveled here with some friends who met us from D.C. area in Alexandria. This is Riley and Matthew.
Well, it's great to have you guys here. Had you been here before today?
No, this is our first time.
Wow. And so when you ran up on it, I heard you guys yell and excited and said, wow.
Yeah.
Is it what you thought it would be?
No. I thought they would be like the full body, but this is like...
Cool. Why don't you each tell me who your favorite one is? Go ahead, start.
My favorite one is probably one that's over there on the right side.
Okay, is that would be President Reagan or there? Yeah. What about somebody else? Who's your favorite one? Did anybody like George Washington here? He's a Virginian. Yeah.
Wait, George Washington is Virginia?
That's George Washington, and then Andrew Jackson and Abraham Lincoln.
Why did it go to the first president, second president, and then like the 16th?
Yeah, I don't know. You would think they would have them in order like that, but these were at another park, and the man was paid to tear down the park. They were going to destroy them.
No.
And he couldn't do that. So he saved them and brought them all here so you and I can enjoy them on a beautiful day like today.
That's great.
So isn't it great? So you'll tell all your friends to do this? Do you like studying history in school?
Yes, I love it. Just because I could like see what actually built America.
Yes.
Actually happened.
Have you been to Washington?
Yes.
Okay, good. Well, next time you come to Washington, you're going to have to come see me and go to our People's House. It's a really cool thing. So I want you to come and I'll meet you there and I'll take you through and you can see it all personally. So, well, thank you for your interest in history and sharing this awesome day with me. Great. Thank you. Great. We're going to go listen to Fred Schneider, who's going to gather the guests here today and host some presidential trivia. Fred is one of the co-organizers that puts these tours together several times a year.
Now we can officially say, welcome to the President's Head. First question I always want to ask is, so what do you guys think? How do you describe this to somebody? I say the two funniest things I've heard so far, someone said they felt like this would be something you would see in like a Planet of the Apes movie. Or someone said that they felt like they just saw Easter Island of the United States. We're going to mix in some fun facts along with some trivia. One president disliked giving public speeches so much they only gave 2 in their entire presidency. And obviously Harrison doesn't count because he only got 1. This one at least did 2. It's actually Thomas Jefferson. Thomas Jefferson liked to write. He did not like to publicly speak. And all the time, I don't even know how many years we've been out here doing this. I've had a total of 8 people get it. Probably went a few years. And then all of a sudden I'm in the middle of the question. There's a lady in the crowd. She goes, Thomas Jefferson. Come to find out, she's a historian at Monticello. So we asked her, most people don't believe that, he was all about controlling his audience. He was fine one-on-one, fine in small groups, but he couldn't control a big group. So he avoided it as much as possible. If he actually had to address Congress, he wrote his speech and someone else read it for him. Also, while we're on the subject of Jefferson, poor guy is all the way in the back. He's literally keeping his head above water today. If you haven't noticed, you will now. His bust is actually taller than the other ones that are around him. He is one of 7 presidents out here that the bust was actually made taller on purpose for either what they did while they were in office or what occurred while they were in office. It's very easy to see with Jefferson because he's surrounded by all the small ones. But now when you look close, Wilson, both Roosevelts are taller, and then the 3 out front are taller as well.
So Sheila, here we are at the President's Heads. And I understand you actually went to the President's Park and saw them in their original setting.
Yeah.
What was that like?
It was amazing. The park, so much greenery. You can sit and enjoy the outside, peace and quiet. I went on a field trip with my son. It was just, it's sad to see him in this condition now. Yeah. I'm just glad that it's open because I'm here now because I showed it to my husband and we did some research and found that they were here now. Right. And he wanted to see it.
Wow. Why do you think it's important for something like this to be?
It's history.
All these people, these young kids, we saw how excited they were to ask questions and the trivia. What's important about this?
It's history. The kids, it's engaging for the young kids to see. Amazing. It gives them knowledge. It makes them ask questions. Things that we don't ask. It was stuff I didn't know. Even when he was doing the question tribute, it was things I didn't know about the presidency. It makes them more interesting to ask questions and read. I'm back in college now at 50. We're not going to say. But it makes us ask more questions and it makes the kids ask more questions. So
well, good for you. Well,
it makes you engage more.
Sharing your experience with us about being at the original President's Park.
We'll be back and bring my grandkids because we still have some younger ones that I would like to bring too. Now that we know where it's at.
Well, we're
Yeah,
great
we're gonna
mom and
bring her.
grandma. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Enjoy.
And now we're going to go meet John Plashell. So, John, here we are, President's Heads. Awesome experience.
Glad you enjoy.
You know, I've been looking forward to this for a long time.
I've heard.
Tell us how you got connected to this and why this is important to you.
So I'm a medical device salesman by primary profession and developed a deep appreciation for history later in life. Oddly and specifically, old abandoned structures. So I started documenting this history of old abandoned structures, houses, churches, schools, asylums throughout the state of Virginia, learning their histories, bringing the occupants into the podcast studio, and speaking to my findings, stories of an abandoned Virginia. And the thought became, this is probably the most, I would say, popular abandoned place in all of Virginia. So the idea hatched about telling my story from the podium at the church across the street, complemented by tickets here. And the owner of the Heads became open to the idea of allowing the general public to come in and creating tours. So it was an idea that I thought was interesting to the general public, allowing access to places like this
Sure.
that otherwise were non-accessible beforehand. And that's my side thing.
Kudos to Mr. Hankins for
Yep.
saving these, making this facility of his, this property of his accessible to people like this, and for you to continue that story and to keep these stories alive. The scores of people that are here today, and they'll be here the rest all day today, they were just soaking it up. And these little kids, and just, it's really exciting to me at a time when I feel like there's such a lack of understanding of American history and interest in American history. It's encouraging me to see young people like this come out here on a Saturday and want to soak it up.
And that's part of the reason. And Fred does a really nice job with the trivia. Obviously, we have some placards here for educational purposes, but the real history comes from typically the parents of the young kids and or the trivia contest. And there are a lot of kids that are fascinated with presidential history and White House history, for that matter.
Has anything surprised you about some people coming? When you said how many from Virginia and then how many from across the United States, that was amazing.
Oh, it's significant. We get international folks that come. I mean, you name the country, they've been here. So, and that is primarily from social media. We get a heavy contingent of folks that are here only for social media, but a large contingent of folks too that really want to bring their kids here, kind of as a catalyst for learning more about American history and the U.S. presidents, obviously in the most unique of ways. And there's a kind of an allure to these sculptures that you wouldn't find in a typical park, but 8 to 80, every demographic.
Wow.
You see it here.
So I think as imperfect as this is, it's a perfect teaching scenario.
It really is. And to Fred's credit, we have on our website a little scavenger hunt we do for families. You know, a lot of homeschool folks that come here and families that want their kids to learn more. So scavenger hunt in the loosest of terms, where we have 15 questions about the presidents accompanied by 15 answers that force families to have a little fun and learn something the same way.
Well, I'm excited heading into America's 250th anniversary that this sites across Virginia, and there's so many historic sites with the 8 presidents that are from Virginia, and then across the country as well, that I hope people will come and explore American history and learn more about the rich. You know, there's good parts of our history and bad parts of our history. It's important that we teach it all and learn it all, and I think you can do that here.
Yeah, I would agree wholeheartedly.
Thank you, John, very much. It's been
indeed
fantastic being with you today.
Yeah, enjoyed your visit. Thank
Great,
you.
Thank you. And now he's going to give us a talk on the history of these statues.
Let me start with where you are, because when you woke up this morning, you probably did not think that you were going to be in the middle of an industrial recycling facility. There's a reason for that. You are currently on the property of a gentleman by the name of Howard Hankins. Howard owns all 400 acres here. This is a industrial recycling facility. If you were to be here Monday through Friday, which you're not allowed to, nor am I, you would see it's just a beehive of activity with truck after truck after truck after truck coming in here. Howard also happened to help construct the original President's Park, which existed 11 miles from here and was operational from '04 until 2010. I'm not going to put her on the spot and make her speak, but this young lady actually visited that park when it was open. So, anyone else here ever go? Every now and then we get someone who actually went. They did not look like this when they were in that park. Okay? That park was the brainchild of a local developer / entrepreneur by the name of Haley Newman. Mr. Newman, unfortunately, is no longer with us, and for those of you that are local, he also owned Water Country, which was right around the corner. And it was a $10 million private venture whose purpose was to reverse the trend of stagnated foot traffic in Williamsburg. For those of you that are local, you know Williamsburg is a tourist town. It's highly historical. But there's only so many times you can visit here and do the same thing, Colonial Williamsburg, Jamestown, Water Country, Busch Gardens, whatever, before you want something new. And this was going to be the next big thing. So he partnered with a sculptor from Texas, who I will talk about momentarily, by the name of David Addix. He's 98 years old. He's still creating art and created these things. And it opened in 2004 to a lot of fanfare and foot traffic for about 60 days. And the main reason why it closed is pretty much the main reason why other businesses close, is they don't know how to market themselves. And they suffered from that. I can't tell you how many hundreds of people over the course of the last 5 years that I've met here that live within 20 miles of here that ever knew that it even existed. And it was open for 6 years, and you could see it from the side of an interstate. That's how poorly it was marketed. So it closed in 2010. It sat abandoned and unmaintained for 2 years. So technically, the decay that you're seeing here began in 2010. Okay? It's 15 years of decay and neglect. And then ultimately, a rental car company came in and purchased the property. And they needed room for their fleet of vehicles. So these things needed to go. What do? Well, you call the guy that lives 10 miles up the road that's an industrial recycler that helped build the place, has a phenomenal reputation in the business community, that also happens to be in the stone crushing business. That conversation actually occurred. Howard, come get these things and demolish them, pulverize them. Howard was like, what? Pardon me? Can you repeat yourself? What was that request again? You want me to come over here and demolish 42 pieces of presidential art? No way. That's history, man. I'll take them. So he had to get very creative in moving them here, 11 miles up the road. So what did he do? Well, he got them here with nothing more than a ladder, a sledgehammer, some chains, some tires, a flatbed, an excavator, and a crew of 6. Specifically, I'll use FDR as an example because you can see his craniotomy clearly. He went up to the top of every one of them with a sledgehammer, and out of respect to the artists, basically bashed their heads in to give him exposure to that rebar endoskeleton that would allow him to connect some industrial chains to, right? Now, Howard admittedly doesn't like me when I say bash their heads in. He prefers me to let you know that he created a minimalistic craniotomy. But it was his rudimentary method of being able to take those chains, connect it to the end of his excavator, rock them off of their massive blue concrete stone foundations on which they once sat, the very foundations that prevented the decay that's killing them right now, not precipitation from above, but from below. And over the course of 3.5 weeks with a crew of 6, got him here with a cost out of his pocket of about $50,000. The first big one to attempt to be moved was FDR. And there was a major strategic tactical error that occurred during transport. Have you noticed, now all of these guys, if you were to look aerially down on them, if you were flying a drone, you'd see all of them have holes in their heads that are all relatively small. Can you see where FDR's is a bit exaggerated? That wasn't Howard with his sledgehammer. That was a municipal obstruction. Who wants to say it? Bridge. Can you imagine being the vehicle at the Lightfoot exit, following an 18-foot tall FDR being transported upright, watching him get scalped and his residual cranium ending up on your hood? So they learned a lesson from there. And then the question also comes up, let me ask you guys if you notice this. Washington and Lincoln, it absolutely makes sense that they're up front, right? Jackson? Anyone question that or notice that? You did? We get a handful of people that sometimes wonder how that happened. In my opinion, and in the opinion of most, but not everybody, Washington and Lincoln deserve to be up front, and probably Jefferson. Arguably FDR. I know everything is debatable, but that question would always come up to me in the early tours is, how did Andrew Jackson get the prime spot on the property? And I never had an answer. So I finally went to Howard and I said, Howard, tell me how Andrew Jackson got up there in the company of those two behemoths. And I expected him to come back to me with some, presidentially algorithmic calculation as to why he did it. You know what his answer was? He goes, I'll tell you why he's up front. Because I think he's got really pretty hair. True story. So I said, well, hold up a second. Is there anything else? He went, yep, I love his epaulets.
Thank you, John. That was great fun to listen to. Now I'm looking forward to going and taking an up-close look at each of these statues. Got on my boots here because they warned us that it was very muddy. Here are the 8 presidents that were from the state of Virginia. Really an incredibly presidential and historic state, of course. And these are all in the 42 early presidents that are over here. See some of our friends that are here already taking a look at these statues. Oh, so great. Here are the signs that were in front of them at the original President's Park that tells you about each president, a little bit of history, narration that brought to life these presidents' heads. It's this eerie feeling of being with them here. They're in different states of condition because they were brought here and damaged along the way. But you see them here, very incredible detail, just amazing, from like Ronald Reagan here on the end, Herbert Hoover, Dwight Eisenhower. This is Woodrow Wilson. We have Teddy Roosevelt next to him, Harry Truman through. You can see Richard Nixon between Hoover and Jimmy Carter here. It's just absolutely amazing. And I love, as I came up, you saw my reaction seeing them, but the little kids, I've been seeing little kids just so excited and eager to learn. And I hope this really conjures in them an interest to learn more about American history and White House history. And it reminds me of my 5th grade trip to Washington, D.C. and the memories that I have of that and how that really piqued my interest in American history. Let's go walk and meander around them. This is Woodrow Wilson, and it's pretty muddy back in here. We've got Jimmy Carter here. LBJ is here. Wow, this is a crazy. There's Harry Truman. Okay, so we're going through these rows, and they're so heavy in this mud. You can see they're starting to sink in to the mud. It's really incredible. Over at President's Park, they had more of a foundation and base, but they were just placed here. There's poor old Gerald Ford back there. He's standing in a whole pool of water, and you can see the mud just coming up around them. It's really amazing. Here I am in the mud. I love it. Look at this, John Kennedy. This is just really amazing. Look at this. Wow. Look at the glasses, the detail. Like, look at Harry Truman's glasses and the twinkle in his eye you can see. And same in Calvin Coolidge back there. This is really amazing. I think it's interesting. You can see the shoulder epaulets of General Eisenhower. They've depicted Eisenhower as a general, and they've also depicted Andrew Jackson as a general, which I find is historically interesting. The rest, of course, are in their civilian presidential attire. Wow. Concrete, you can see how they're really wearing with the weather. But to me, it just makes them even feel more historic. Wow. Let's go up and look at Teddy Roosevelt. Okay, wow, Teddy Roosevelt. He is front and center, bold, strong, iconic. The detail in his tie there, the strength of his jaw, you just sort of feel like it's Mount Rushmore here in Williamsburg, Virginia. But to be next to them in this scale just really makes them powerful in their stories, their lives, their history in such an interesting way. Wow. Oh, now look, this is FDR. Here's an example of how when they moved them from President's Park to here, and thank goodness, Mr. Hankins, these were slated to just be destroyed and lost to history, but he couldn't bring himself to do that. So he saved them, and with the cranes that were lifting them to transport them, some were damaged. FDR, you can see the nose, the top of his head, but that's sad and unfortunate, but the bulk of him, as with all of the others, has been saved. This is amazing. Grant is here. Quite incredible. Andrew Johnson and Buchanan, the presidents that flanked Lincoln. Interesting that they're kind of right behind Abraham Lincoln. This is quite something. Bill Clinton there on the back row. I see him peeking through. Harrison. And then they have the three large ones. We're looking at the back of them here now. We have Washington and Andrew Jackson and Abraham Lincoln. We should go around and take a look at the front of them. They're really powerful statues. So the first president, the first Virginian president, George Washington, in this place of prominence here, the strength of his jaw, the intensity of his eyes, of course, the massive scale of his presence here in his colonial attire. It's very majestic. You just feel the strength of his persona and character in this statue as he's depicted here, and how fitting that he is placed here first and so prominently in front of the others. That's just really incredible. They've got next is Andrew Jackson, interestingly. He's in his military attire again. Well, of course, we see a statue of him across from us at the White House Historical Association in the middle of Lafayette Park. He's there on his horse. But Andrew Jackson, strong, incredible, beautiful Abraham Lincoln over here. Just really an amazing depiction of him. The likeness that they've been able to create with these is just amazing, especially formed out of concrete. We think of a bronze sculpture of our presidents, but here he is in his bow tie. He's only missing his iconic top hat, but such a powerful force and a strength of his character here. What an amazing tribute and sculpture to him. Really powerful. Okay, I have slushed through the mud on this back row here. John Tyler here, another Virginian. It's just they have them just positioned so close and tight in here. And it's muddy, but that just makes it more fun. American history is a little muddy as well. It's not perfectly manicured. And that just, to me, the setting of these presidents in this setting is emblematic of the history of our country, where there has been so much greatness, incredibleness, and strength and power, but some really difficult, challenging times as well, as each of these presidents has faced. And I love this setting. I love the people that are here just soaking it up, just learning, wanting to learn more about these presidents. I'm so happy to be here. I've been wanting to do this for so long. Well, thank you for joining us for this episode of the White House 1600 Sessions. I've been looking forward to this for a long time. It's a dream come true for me to see these heads up close and to experience the history here. We're on the eve of America's 250th anniversary. All across our nation, there are presidential sites, birthplaces, childhood homes, libraries, museums, even alma maters of our presidents and first ladies. If you're taking a family trip, explore those along the way and learn a little bit about presidential history and White House history. Of course, if you come to Washington, D.C., you have to visit us at the People's House, a White House experience at 1700 Pennsylvania Avenue. Thank you for joining us. Thank you all for listening and watching today. Be sure to subscribe to the White House 1600 Sessions on your favorite podcast provider so that you never miss an episode, and watch the video version on YouTube and Facebook. Your support of the White House Historical Association makes this work possible. When you become an association member, or when you purchase a book, or even the official White House Christmas ornament, you're helping to fund our education mission through teacher programming, publishing, our White House History Live, in-person and virtual events, and our latest initiative, the People's House, a White House experience. You know, we're bringing the White House and its storied history to life at 1700 Pennsylvania Avenue, and it's open to everyone. So plan your visit today and register for free passes at our website, thepeopleshouse.org. And you can learn more about our work as a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization by going to our website, whitehousehistory.org. Thank you very much.